Oh my god, this lamp needs to go away at some point in time. Well, hello you, and welcome back to my vlog. Today we're going to talk about debt and not financial debt, but I do want to talk about finances just for a little tiny bit to get the brain linking this very esoteric concept of personal debt to something we all understand already, okay? If I borrow money, whatever the amount of money is, there's a certain amount of time that's involved in paying it back. And usually what ends up happening, unless you get that 0% finance loan or whatever, there's usually some sort of paying back with interest that's involved. If I buy a car, there's 4 or 5% interest on it. In the long term, I'm going to be paying thousands of extra dollars that especially could have gone into investments and I could have gotten a lot more money on. We call that opportunity cost, right? Now, again, I'm not going to try and get into numbers with this, but that's kind of the general idea of this debt, having something now and then having to pay it back in a lot bigger of an amount later on in life. Here's what I want to talk about, though. I heard a phrase the other day that really got me thinking. When we drink, we're borrowing happiness from the next day. Yeah, that's about right. I'm having a lot of happiness now, but in the long term, this is only 48 hours. I'm going to have a hangover. I'm going to have a lot more water to try and get through some stuff. I'm not going to be as effective as my job. So I'm actually not taking just a little bit of happiness from that next day into this day. I'm taking a lot to put into this day. I am paying back the drinking with the hangover, with interest the next day. But let's take this one step further. That happiness debt that comes with drinking can turn into a health debt that we have to pay back long term with a lot of consequences. And the interest rate is basically the level of unhealthy that you are doing. If you're a general smoker, right, with cigarettes or anything like that, your level of payback is going to basically be based on how many cigarettes you have each day, how long of a smoker you are, what kind of cigarettes you have, the tobacco content, the tar content, all these things. If you smoke meth, the interest rate's going to be a lot higher. And when you come back 10, 15 years later out of rehab, all of a sudden your body doesn't work the same. You have now this ridiculous amount of health debt that you have to pay back to yourself. And believe it or not, I work with a lot of different people in the health field, and this is kind of the stuff they tell me about. Not necessarily smoking and meth and whatnot, but they don't exercise one day and they kind of save some happiness or productivity that day, but then they have this debt they've got to pay back in the productivity and health realm later on down the road, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 30 years later. I've worked with some people that they haven't really moved for 40 years. And it's so much harder because they have to pay back this debt with a crazy high interest rate on their health. So my question to you guys, especially with me being somebody that's actually dealt with a lot of financial debt and paid it off and wishing I didn't because I was paying so much more than I could have. What are some things that you borrow from yourself? Whether it's around the corner a couple weeks or, putting off that phone call that you need to take or investing even if it's financial for you. Not putting that $5 in a piggy bank. Not necessarily having that broccoli instead of chocolate. What is that going to look like when you have to pay it back with interest? All right? Ask yourself that question. Post a comment down below if you want to enjoy this conversation with me. Otherwise, have a phenomenal Monday, and I will talk to you tomorrow.